Welcome to Going Down the Line, a podcast made by Baylor fans for Baylor fans. I'm Steven from Virginia. That's Chase Gilmer. We're here to talk about Baylor football this week.
Yeah, let's do it.
Obviously, we would be remiss to not mention the fact that Mack Rhoades has taken a leave of absence, both from being the athletic director at Baylor University and being the College Football Playoff Committee's ranking chair. Certainly want to start off by saying we wish Mack the best. Um, Chase, how do you think this impacts the Baylor athletic program and the football team?
Yeah, I'm obviously trying to be careful with what I say because as of right now there's really not much information that's happened, and I mean it's a very unfortunate situation given what happened. So obviously wish, Mack Rhoades and his family, the best during this time. Having said that, um I'm a little bit, worried about how things are going to turn out when it comes to our athletic department. Not just because for Mack Rhodes' sake, but just for, everything else because of, the situation that they find themselves in at the moment. If, again, I'm trying to be careful with what I say. If this was something that happened back, say in October, then I would say that, Max leave of absence wouldn't really affect much. But with him having to take this 3 weeks before, the regular season for college football is over, it's just like it's very unfortunate timing. It there's, a lot more stress that's put on, not just our athletic department, but Dave Aranda, as well as just really everything else when it comes to sports, but mainly the football aspects of things because uh, we're really talking about whether or not Dave Aranda is going to keep his job or not. Now, if Baylor somehow wins out, then yeah, he deserves to come back for 2026. But those expectations that we have for this year better be met in 2026. But I'm still of the proponent that if he loses at least one game, then really there's no reason for him to stay because it's just not a good look to have all those expectations and then you end up with a worse record than you did in the previous year. But now that Mack Rhoades is gone, it's just like I don't know what's gonna happen. I mean, there's still a chance that, Dave Aranda is let go based on, how the team finishes. But again,
Yeah.
we don't know about that.
I would say that the first thing is Mack Rhoades was at the pinnacle of his profession and had a lot of big responsibilities, not just at Baylor, but in college football. And when a person in that sort of position leaves their post to take a leave of absence, most of the time that is the end of that. I find it hard to see Mack Rhoades coming back into this situation, and I'd really say that, excuse me, um, Baylor's probably going to be looking for a new athletic director, and it's very possible that before this they were looking at getting a new coach, and a lot of times those two things are tied together. So it seems very difficult that Baylor would have to find a new athletic director and a new coach at the same time in a 3 week span before the season ends. Start kind of drumming up that search, but I think that's the road we're headed down. I've heard a lot of people I respect say that maybe this is an opportunity for Baylor to get a reset. There's been a lot of fan apathy, kind of levels we haven't seen in 15 or 20 years. And, there's certainly a lot of disappointment around what's going on in Baylor athletics, and Baylor athletics has certainly taken a nosedive over the past couple of years as to where it was in 2021 and 2022. Um, yeah, and I think this just is going to give everybody an opportunity at a fresh start. obviously, I hope and wish for the best for Mack Rhoades and his family, but I think this is an opportunity for Baylor to get a fresh start.
Yeah, I agree with that. Um, obviously, we don't know what's gonna happen with this, but if I had to lean one way or the other, I think the timing of this, as well as the fact that this is not the first incident that's come to light over the past couple weeks when it comes to Mack Rhoades. Because remember last week we had where he had that altercation with Michael Trigg as well as Dave, not Dave Aranda, but an assistant coach.
Mm-hmm.
Some think it was tight end coach Jared Anderson, and yeah, I mean, if for those two reasons, I really have a hard time seeing him return and once his leave of absence has been completed. Uh, but one thing I do want to point out before I make any prediction on who I think the next athletic director will be, which I think it's obvious who I think it will who I think it would be, and I think everyone else's number one choice would be for that position. I want to point out that Mack Rhoades, what he did at Baylor is was phenomenal. He came in at a time when Baylor was at a very, very low point, uh, due to the stuff with the Title IX, as well as the situation with Art Briles, and he was fired. Ian McCaw resigned. President Ken Starr also resigned. So he ended up coming into a situation that was going to be very, very difficult for him, and he absolutely killed it. He hit the rebuild that he had for not just football, but just the entire athletic department in general was amazing. Unfortunately, over the past few years, it's gotten a little stale after the 2021 Big 12 title and the Sugar Bowl. But they were Mack Rhoades helped made Baylor sports in general be respectable again without all the all the crud that came with it when he was first coming to there. So, um, I obviously applaud him for that, and unfortunately, what happened sucks for him and his family, but obviously wish him well. But anyways, for my pick, if we do get an athletic director, and I think it's such an obvious choice, would be Boise State's athletic director Jeremiah Dickey. And he was at Baylor. He served under Mack Rhoades up until what was it, 22? Was that when he was hired by Boise State?
I think so.
Yeah, so I mean, so he's been there for a little bit. He's gotten a good amount of experience as an athletic director now. I think it would make so much sense for Baylor to hire to bring him on.
Yeah, that's obviously my first choice as well. I think a couple other candidates are the North Texas AD, who also works for Mack Rhoades at Missouri, and Ren Baker, the athletic director at West Virginia, who also works for Mack Rhoades. But beyond that, probably irresponsible of us to get into too deep of a AD search.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just saying if it happens, then
Right, for
I
sure.
it, there's a lot of options.
A lot of options. Baylor's a much more desirable job than it was, you know, 10, 9 years ago when the scandal hit. So, um, obviously, that's a melancholy note to start the show, but want to get into a little bit of talk. I guess we'll do basketball and then Utah and then picks of the week. Basketball is 2-0. They beat Washington in a blackout at Foster Pavilion Sunday night. And Chase, I was really impressed with the Bears.
Yeah, I definitely was too. I said this to you after the game, but I still think when the regular season ends and we're in tournament season, that win against Washington is going to age very well for Baylor. They played great defense, which let's credit new assistant coach Ron Sanchez for that. Obviously, I mean it. There's still some things that need to be tweaked with the defense, but it looked so great against Washington, especially given the size that Washington brings. Um, they and also, Caden Powell, man. Caden Powell was such a great get for Scott Drew and the Baylor Bears. I wish we did have a little bit more size, but I think if if we have Caden Powell at the 5 and we're playing, mainly guards from 1 through 4, I think that's serviceable. The one thing that I am a little bit concerned though, and I mean, obviously we'll see this as the season progresses, is that it doesn't feel like Baylor really has a true point guard. And look, with all due respect to Obi Agbim, I think he'll have such a great year. Obviously, it's been a rough start for him when it comes to shooting and scoring and everything like that. I'm just a little bit worried that without the true aspect of the point guard, which is obviously not just to facilitate the plays, but also be able to be relied on to score, maybe that ends up biting this team in the butt a little bit. But obviously, we're only 2 games in the season. Let's just see how things go. But so far, very impressed with what I see.
Yeah, and I was really impressed with Cameron Carr, although he got into some foul trouble. He's been really good in the first couple of games. And I think, whereas before the season, I was kind of looking at this team as a 7 through 10 seed. I see that they have the potential to maybe be a 5 seed and or hot, around that, and be the kind of team that could compete in the Big 12 in the regular season and make some heads turn. Um, Obviously, I'm still concerned about the guard depth and the point guard play. But I think Obi Agdin is going to do just fine in terms of he's going to be able to score and be a leading guard for us. But I definitely feel like we could use a distributor. And I also feel like we're lacking a real rim protector presence. Caden Powell stepped in really well into that role against Washington. But there's going to be some nights where we get eaten up alive by Big Ben if Jocelyn Bodo doesn't play this season. And, you
Yeah,
know,
it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And who knows, maybe he will play this year, but right now it's not guaranteed.
yep. So the Bears play Tarleton State Friday night. At the time of recording, this is Thursday. So, obviously a lot going on for the Bears this weekend. Are you ready to talk about the Utah game?
Well, first we got to point out that next week's a big week for Baylor basketball because they play Creighton and St. John's. So if if they if they sweep those 2 games, and I know they have a third one, but obviously we don't know who it is. But if they sweep those 2 games, maybe the expectations are a lot higher for this basketball team than we thought they would be a preseason. But anyways, let's go to football.
All right. Well, Baylor plays Utah at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2 tomorrow night. It's a whiteout. It's a night game. It's a ranked matchup for Baylor. They're facing the number 13 Utah Utes. Chase, what are you looking for from this game?
First off, it's Saturday night, not tomorrow night.
Oh, that's right.
Second off, what I'm looking for, or I'm interested to see how this team does coming off a bye week where they played very well the last game against, not necessarily a great team in UCF, but still played very, very much very well. Defense had their best game of the season, obviously. But with the aspect of, they used the bye week to try to heal back up, especially with, uh, running back depth because it was banged up a little bit with Bryson Washington. Obviously, the thing with Tevin Williams sucked. Hopefully, he's back. But yeah, I'm looking to see how uh, the health is for this team going into a matchup that very much doesn't favorite them. Let's be honest, but you know, I could see this team because with with what I said earlier about Dave Aranda has to win out. I could see this team being very much desperate. And look, it could end up in their favor because they're playing at home. But Utah's going to be the best team that they play all season, at least regular season wise. So, as long as they stay healthy, I mean, they can make it an interesting game.
For sure, this is definitely going to be the best team they play at home this year. They're 8.5 point underdogs to Utah right now. Um, if they play the way they played against UCF, they can beat anybody, but they obviously haven't played that way throughout the season so far. And definitely would love to see the defense stop the run the way they did against UCF. But on a whole, for the season, they're 113th in rushing defense, and Utah is a running team. So it's hard to see Baylor being able to stop Utah and Devin Dampier, who's a running quarterback,
Yeah.
consistently enough to win this football game.
Yeah. And look, I kind of ragged on Devin Dampier at the beginning of the season. That wasn't out of disrespect at all. I just wasn't sure how he transitioning from the Mountain West to the Big 12 was going to be for him, but he's done decent. So I'll give him credit for that. But the one thing I did want to point out, and I'll give credit to Travis Rader for mentioning this. Utah is top 15 on both sides of the ball. That's very uncommon to see, especially when it comes to, Baylor's schedule, because I think Utah's the only team that really is in that category. Um, I mean, obviously, you could say Texas Tech, I think, is top 15 on both sides. I'm pretty sure BYU's top 15 on both sides, but Baylor doesn't play either of them this year. This is going to be probably the toughest matchup on a talent standpoint, especially in the trenches, because not BYU, Utah has very, very good talent on the offensive line and the defensive line. I'm pretty sure they have an offensive tackle that's supposed to be projected in the top 10 in the NFL draft in Spencer Fano. And I know they have another really good defensive lineman that's, projected to go pretty high in the draft. So yeah, it's going to be interesting with that talent standpoint on both sides of the ball. This could be, feast or famine for the Bears.
Certainly, I feel like they could either have a really good game or they could have a really bad game, and both options are on the board for sure. Um, would hate to see them have another bad game, but vibes around the program aren't good right now. Even though the UCF win was uplifting, I just think there's a lot going on in this athletic department right now, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing for the Bears.
Yeah, and you actually did bring up a good point. I kind of wonder if the situation with Mack Rhoades is going to be a distraction. I hope not, but we'll see.
Yeah. Um, any more points on Utah?
Well, really, the only thing I have left to say about it is that I really don't have any expectations for how the game's going to go. So, regardless of the outcome, it's I feel like it's will be a win-win either way. As weird as that is to say.
Right. We either win the
Obviously,
game
obviously I
or
want Baylor to win, but, you know,
right. We either win the game or we start the road to a new football coach.
yeah.
So that's for sure. All right. Are we ready to do some picks of the week?
Yes, so first game we're going to pick is number 9 Notre Dame at number 22 Pittsburgh, whose head coach has said this is not a big game for them. He is a dummy. It is a noon kickoff time Eastern on ABC on Saturday, and Notre Dame is a 12.5 point favorite. Steven, who do you have winning?
Give me Notre Dame.
Yeah, I agree with that. I can't believe Pat Narduzzi would go on the record to say that this is not a big game for them. It is. It very much is because not only, I mean, obviously, I don't see how, I haven't seen Pitt's remaining schedule, but technically they're still in the race for the college football playoff when you think about it. So, yeah, this is a big game. And for him to discount that is like, dude, come on. So, I'm going with Notre Dame off the aspect of, Notre Dame's a really good team. I think they win by 2 touchdowns. They're going to make Pat Narduzzi look silly.
All right.
All right, so next game we're picking is number 11 Oklahoma at number 4 Alabama. It is a 3:30 kickoff time on ABC. I'm going with the Crimson Tide. They've looked unstoppable since their opening week loss to Florida State, which I still don't know how, or like I don't know how they lost that game in all honesty, given how bad Florida State's looked. So, with that being said, I'm going with the Crimson Tide.
I'm also going to take the Crimson Tide. Give me Alabama.
All right. So next game we're picking is number 10 Texas at number 5 Georgia. That is a 7:30 kickoff time on ABC. In all honesty, I think Texas is rated a little too high, but that's besides the point. Steven, who do you have?
Give me the Bulldogs. Give me Georgia. Georgia has been real strong all year, and I believe Texas is a little overrated. Give me Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, look, all due respect to Texas, they've bounced back, since the bad loss to Florida. But I think that's the reason why I think they're overrated because that loss for most teams that would plummet them. But they've bounced back since then. But Georgia's a whole totally different team than what they played against so far. I'm going with the Bulldogs.
All right.
All right, next game we're going to be picking is TCU at number 12 BYU. That is a 10:15 kickoff time on ESPN. I picked this game only because the matchup is interesting given, the Christian aspects for both, or Mormons versus Christians, I guess. That being said, I watched TCU's game last week and they looked bad. And with them going on the road to Provo, I'm picking the Utes. Or not the Cougars. Good gosh. I don't know what
Also, give me BYU. I don't think TCU is good enough to win on the road in Provo.
All right. Last game we're picking, speaking of the Utes, number 13 Utah at your Baylor Bears. That is a 7 o'clock Eastern time kickoff on ESPN2. Utah is currently favored by 8.5 points. It's been fluctuating between 9.5 to 7.5 points. Steven, does Baylor win?
No. Give me Utah, but give me Baylor to make it close. Something like 27-21. Sorry, I just don't have a lot of faith right now. And this will be my a couple weeks in a row that I'm picking against the Bears. But I hope they win.
Yeah, I out of the 3 games that they have left, this is the one game where I have the least faith in Baylor winning. Obviously, the whole stuff that's happened over the past couple weeks doesn't help because that's a distraction. I mean, Utah has so much talent. Baylor has deficiencies on defense. It's just not a recipe for it's a recipe for disaster is what I'm trying to say. So while I think Baylor can be desperate enough to make this a really good game, and I think this could very much be a trap game for Utah, I just don't see Baylor winning this game. So I'm gonna also go with the same thing as you. I think Utah wins this game, but I think Baylor keeps it close the whole time. So I'm gonna go Utah wins. Let's say 42-40.
All right, that would be a close one.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that does it for this week's episode of Going Down the Line. Later, Baylor fans. Sick 'em
All right.
Bears.
Sick and Bears. See y'all next week.
Next week.